Sir Stanley Spencer referred to Cookham as a village in heaven. It was the centre of his life. He was born here in 1891, and most of his 450 paintings are set in and around this Berkshire idyll.
This is obviously, with a blue plaque, the house where Stanley was born.
Tourists come from throughout the world to discover why Cookham so inspired one of the greatest artists of the last century.
It's almost as though they're the souls of the people. They're the people who should have been here, but their names are on the war memorial.
And they're charmed by its beauty.
It's been very beneficial to actually be pointed at the places that you know in the pictures.
His artwork is so compelling. There's such depth to it. The emotion and the stress of his own life is reflected in every single painting.
He had a great sense of humour. He included a lot of people that live in the village in his painting.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure the innkeeper and his wife in the Christ preaching picture are portraits, and certainly John Brooks, who was the ferryman, that was a portrait.
60 volunteers help run the Stanley Spencer Gallery, a former Methodist chapel, which lies at the heart of the village.
The style of the landscapes and the portraits is very representational. The style of the visionary and imaginative work isn't at all. Often people say, why are those figures distorted? That was of no importance whatsoever to Spencer. It wasn't real life anyway, he was trying to convey a feeling. He pushed an old pram around with his easel and his paints.
We have a fantastic photograph of him perched precariously on a trestle table doing a painting.
That's right, and when you see the detail in that painting, it is just amazing to think that he was doing it under those conditions.
Sir Stanley Spencer also spent time painting at nearby Cliveden in Buckinghamshire.
We're 200 foot above the Thames here, and over there is Cookham, home of Stanley Spencer. This house here is built in 1851 for the Duke of Sutherland because it's best known as the home of the Astors.
And they were a real political force, weren't they?
A real political and social force, yes. Of course, Nancy Astor being the first woman to take her seat in the House of Parliament.
And Cliveden is forever linked with the Profumo Affair.
And of course, ever will be. Whenever you think of Cliveden, you think of the Profumo Affair and the names that evoke so many memories of that era: Christine Keeler, Mandy Rice Davis, and of course, you know, John Profumo was here at the same time as the Russian attaché Ivanov, and an affair developed, and we all know what happened after that. Profumo lied to Parliament and eventually, of course, had to resign his seat.
With love from me to you.
Cliveden is now a luxury hotel, and the National Trust have spent the last 18 months renovating the magnificent gardens.
Now, Cliveden's very famous for its topiary, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It provides a good structure for the garden and fits in very much with the Italianate feel.
OK, let me have a go then. What's the knack to this then?
Right, the best thing is just take off a little bit at a time, because you can't put it back on once you've cut it off.
We don't want massive holes in it.
So lots of little sharp, that's it.
Stanley Spencer died at Cliveden in 1959, the year he was knighted, but his memory will be forever cherished.
The major change is that we've introduced an upper floor with a staircase. Now that has allowed us to show another 50% of our collection. If we were to come here now, I'm sure he'd be quite delighted to see what we have achieved here and how well we're showing his paintings.
The gallery first opened in 1962 and has been growing ever since. It includes many of Spencer's religious paintings and a selection of drawings.
And this is a self-portrait of the man himself, done when he was 32. He was only 5'3" in height, but he certainly had a very striking face.
Spencer was born in this house and spent most of his working life in Cookham. He was hugely inspired by the scenery around and often painted river scenes and the village church, where a memorial stone marks his life. Joan George, who lives in the village, knew Stanley Spencer through her work as a writer.
Well, he was a very lively character. Any party or do, he always monopolised the conversation and held forth. He was a great talker, but also a very genuine, sincere, intelligent person.
Sir Stanley Spencer was a Berkshire man through and through, and it's fitting that his work should be displayed here in the heart of the village where he lived. Juliet Fletcher in Cookham for Thames Valley Tonight.